The date is November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. A routine flight from Portland to Seattle is about to become the stage for one of America's greatest and most audacious mysteries. One of the passengers, a man who would go down in history as D.B. Cooper, was about to vanish into thin air, leaving behind only a few clues and decades of unanswered questions. Who was this man? And more importantly, what happened to him after he disappeared into the night sky? This is the story of America's only unsolved skyjacking. It all began with a quiet, polite man in his mid-40s, wearing a black business suit, who bought his ticket under the name Dan Cooper. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner. The attendant, thinking it was a phone number, dropped it into her purse. But Cooper insisted, leaning in to say, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." When he slightly opened his briefcase, she saw a frightening array of red sticks and wires. His demands were precise: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by to refuel the plane. When the aircraft landed in Seattle, Cooper's demands were met. The 36 passengers were released in exchange for the money and parachutes. A portion of the crew remained on board as hostages. Cooper now had a new destination: Mexico City, but with specific instructions. The plane was to fly below 10,000 feet, with its landing gear down and at the slowest possible speed. Suspicious persons. Dwayne L. Weber was suspected because he resembled witnesses' statements. Joe Weber claims her dead husband is D.B. Cooper. Sheridan Peterson admits the FBI had good reason to suspect him. A friend of Walter Reka claimed that he confessed to being D.B. Cooper twice before his death. Robert Rackstraw's facial features linked him to the case. Barbara Dayton, who is transgender, has been named as a potential suspect. Marla Cooper, who believes her uncle L.D. Cooper is D.B. Cooper. Flight attendant Kenneth Christensen also came to the attention of the FBI as a potential suspect. A map with thousands of dollars allegedly belonging to Cooper. It was just after 8:00 p.m. The plane was flying between Seattle and Reno through a stormy and pitch-black night. It was then that Cooper made his final move. He tied the money to his body and ordered the crew to lower the rear air stairs. A warning light in the cockpit indicated the stairs were open. A few minutes later, a slight tremor was felt at the tail of the plane. D.B. Cooper, with $200,000, had jumped into the freezing wind and pouring rain, into the vast wilderness of southwestern Washington. And then, silence. One of the largest manhunts in history began, but no trace of Cooper was ever found. Only a few small clues remained. The black clip-on tie he left on the plane. Years later, forensic analysis found rare metal particles on it, including titanium. This suggested Cooper might have been an engineer or a technician working in the aerospace industry. And the biggest clue of all emerged in 1980, 9 years after the jump. An 8-year-old boy playing in the sand on the banks of the Columbia River found 3 decaying bundles of the ransom money, a total of $5,800. The serial numbers matched. But how did it get there? Did Cooper drown trying to cross the river? Or did he bury some of the money and fail to return for it? This discovery, instead of solving the mystery, only made it more complex. Over the years, the FBI investigated more than 800 suspects, but none could be definitively linked to Cooper. There was Richard McCoy, a veteran who staged a similar hijacking. There was Robert Rackstraw, a pilot with a military background and cryptic confessions. Even an engineer named Vince Peterson became a prime suspect due to the metal traces on the tie. But for each of them, there was no concrete proof. This brings us to the biggest question of all. Did D.B. Cooper survive? Those who say no argue that the weather conditions that night were lethal, that he used the wrong kind of parachute, and that his clothing was completely inadequate for the wilderness. Those who say yes claim that Cooper's calmness and planning showed he was an expert who knew what he was doing. And most importantly, if he died, where are his body, his parachute, and the remaining $194,000? In 2016, the FBI officially announced it was closing the D.B. Cooper case. But this didn't mean the mystery was over. He became a modern folk hero, an anti-hero who fought the system and won. Perhaps somewhere he smiled at all of us, living an ordinary life under a completely different identity. Or perhaps his remains still lie in the untouched forests of Washington, a secret waiting to be solved. What do you think? Share your theories in the comments below.